All right, so welcome back to another episode of the Slot One Super Podcast. Now, of course, I'm as always Minato's Flash, and we are joined by my lovely host with me, Dokkan Assets and the Mass Ningen.
Yo,
Please, you flatter me. Don't put a little too many lovelies in there, you know what I'm
Man,
saying?
you know what? We gotta spread the love for the Dokkan community, Dragon Ball
Yes,
community.
sir.
It's been a very exciting week for just Dragon Ball fans in general, I think.
Mm-hmm.
While Dokkan has been a little bit on the dry-ish side, we still do have some pretty exciting things to talk about, I think, for the upcoming future. So let's just hop right into things, right? And before we continue on, I just want to let y'all know that my brain just stopped thinking for some reason. That any I see Ningen, you made me laugh and just stop. Okay, for real though. Any donations and super chats will be read out at the end of the stream. If y'all want to help support the podcast through that way, not necessary, but we would greatly appreciate if you do. And of course, we'll read them all out at the end of the show. So, continuing on though, we have Physical Goku Black obtaining his Super EZA on the JP version. Now, this was anticipated since he ended up being on the Super Bosses category banner with STR Kefla, but we had the official confirmation and his drop in game over the past week. I think a lot of people, when they first saw his details, were a little disappointed, but now we have gameplay of him, and I think a lot of people's opinions may have potentially changed. So, before I continue with my little in-depth analysis about how this guy performs in game, I want to hear from Ningen. Ningen, I'm not sure if you've seen any gameplay or, if you only have the thoughts on his details. How are you feeling about this EZA Goku Black in terms of his design?
so I haven't seen any content or anything of him because I try and stay away from watching the in-depth showcases and stuff before I get a chance to use them by myself. But I've seen a few things on Twitter and screenshots and stuff like that. The general consensus that I seem to have noticed from when he dropped, seeing people's reactions on Twitter and things like that, is that he is a lot better than people expected him to be. Which is funny because, I feel like this happens all the time, right? We make jokes about it all the time, but people always underestimate units kits when they come out. It just is always a thing, right? Where the kit comes out on Twitter and then loads of people, I mean, it's, the vocal minority of the community or whatever, but you get all the tweets of people being like, oh, he's terrible. This is the first Super EZA fumble and stuff like that. But I feel I feel a bit justified in seeing people say that he's actually good, because it means I do understand units kits as well as I think I do. Because when you look at his kit, and it's he's a unit that gets a very large amount of stats per orb obtained. Then he gets a massive, it's 150% buff on super, and he's a unit that has big bad bosses. So you see the pieces of his kit coming together, and it's okay, yeah, he could be really good. Obviously he's a nuking style unit, so whilst he does also create his own orbs, he does suffer from, as any orb hungry unit does. If you get a really bad turn, bad RNG, you get an enemy that changes orbs, something like that, then obviously he's not going to look as good. But that is, I think, sort of part and parcel of having the nuking style passive. But I've seen screenshots of, I think it was Truce one, I don't know, I think it was from the Broly trio turn where they changed the entire field of orbs. So obviously it's not something that you're going to see from him every single turn, but it was something stupid a 50 million attack stat and 3.5 million defense or something, which is pretty fun, because we've got other nuking style units in the game currently that don't do that even with a full field of orbs. So that is pretty crazy. I think it's with the physical rose domain and stuff as well, but yeah, he's crazy. I think it's someone in the chat mentioned it, funnily enough, but it's people see a unit and they don't have guard or damage reduction or something like that, and they think, oh well, this unit is immediately bad. But then yeah, he can, as I say, if he's got 3 million defense or something before he supers, when I think he gets is it 150% on super? So yeah, it's pretty good. So it seems cool. Obviously, as the global main, we're just sat now waiting to see what they're going to do with this guy, because, of course, the most confusing thing is he released as part of the physical Rosé celebration, which Global has already had. So when do they release him on Global? Because we've already had the celebration that he released in on JP. So who knows? Hopefully sooner rather than later, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think if you've actually used him, because, yeah, it seems like he could be quite good, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely a good analysis about people's thoughts and how you felt. I always thought that as well. He was going to be better than people thought, and I think one thing that maybe people don't necessarily understand is that he does greatly lower attack. And with all the debuffs that are on like that Super Bosses team, we have Broly Trio, we have this Goku Black. You could even arguably run, Tech Fusion Zamasu as well, right? There's a lot of like debuffing kind of characters there. So I'm thinking a rotation of this guy and Broly Trio work pretty well in my experience. Right, Broly Trio on slot 1 with Goku Black Rainbow Orb changing. It's pretty like fairly consistent. You can get the guaranteed dodge with Broly Trio. Then you debuff with Broly Trio, and Goku Black also does his own debuff. So then you could potentially greatly lower the enemy's attack 4 times if you get a double, or like you would have to get the triple super with Broly Trio and then a double super from Goku Black. But then like you greatly lower the enemy's attack 4 times potentially, like since there's a lot of bosses now that can have their attack lowered, that could just be a very, very nasty outcome. And the thing about Goku Black is that I think people they really put it into his perspective. He gets 60% attacking defense per key sphere. And I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that might be the highest percentage per key sphere we've seen from a character, right? Getting 60% per any key sphere he grabs.
Yeah,
that's a big number. Yeah. And I do want to clarify again, he does build up multiplicative stats when he gets hit. So I think, you did talk about that, the truth screenshot where he had like 3 mil defense or like a little under start of turn. Keep in mind that since he already has 150% multiplicative defense up, he wouldn't get another 150% pure buff off of that defense that he gets, but he would still get quite a strong amount of defense. I would say at least like an extra 800k to a million defense he would get after he super attacks, which it's just pretty crazy, right? If you do get that turn with the Broly Trio key spheres. Now again, the only thing I found that could potentially be an issue for him just from using him on super bosses is he is restricted to super bosses. You do ideally run him on the Rosé version of the team, which I think this Goku Black makes that team like what it is at this point, which is good. I think the issue I had previously with the double physical Rosé team is, well, one, I think this issue is still not really fixed in my eyes, but physical Rosé, like running them both as a rotation could really be an issue, because I found that physical Rosé, like as a slot 1 character, he's not living the hardest hitting supers in the game, which could be an issue, right? It's like, oh, these bosses always super you instantly, but then him with this 66% reduction, it's just he still has like 250k defense, so he just gets one shot, right? But I think the other thing is that again, so many characters on this team are orb hungry, right? I know Goku Black wants rainbow orbs, Broly Trio wants orbs, right? And arguably this Goku Black, while he is an orb changer for rainbow key spheres, which is really good, he still wants orbs too. So I think the only issue I found is that the team is kind of orb hungry now. So while this guy adds the rainbow orb changing, him also wanting his own orbs on top of that kind of doesn't even it out. I think it's much better than what it is, but there's still that extra layer of he wants his own orb still. So maybe you potentially have to like struggle between like Broly Trio and this guy both getting the orbs they want. And then like if you have a floating Rosé, that's the only issue I've kind of run into a little. But besides that, I think this guy does good numbers on average, right? I don't think his offense is necessarily crazy, but it's decent offense. I like the debuff and his defense. At the bare minimum, he's always able to tank these normals. And if you do have him with Broly Trio, he can get 10% reduction from Broly Trio being in slot 1 along with their debuffs. So I think that's also pretty helpful. Yeah,
Sorry, I
but
think my internet pooped out for a second.
yeah, I mean, that is my experience with him. But Dokkan Assets, have you used him
No,
yet
I have
in
not
game
gotten a
or seen
chance,
gameplay?
unfortunately, yet.
That's fine. Have you seen any gameplay of
I've
him?
not. No, although, oh no, I haven't, because I was gonna say the only thing that I like, the only thing that I saw, I didn't watch the video for too long though, was I know shout out to the homie Dokkan World came back finally because he's been MIA for like a month and he didn't say anything. Shout out to the goat for the return on Goku Black. But anyway, yeah, no, I have not gotten I've not gotten a chance to use them, unfortunately. However, though, I do agree with what Ningen was saying earlier. It's kind of like the thing where it's like, I'm glad that he was better than people were saying on paper, because gosh, and I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like that's always so foolish that people look like they have so much egg on their faces after, a unit. People are like complaining about, oh my gosh, this unit is terrible, and then the unit comes out and there's like, nothing wrong with it. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like, I guess I personally was like I was a little worried because he didn't have those mechanics, and it's like you could obviously tell a character's gonna age well or do fine if they have those mechanics, or I think they're gonna be in a better spot, I guess you could say. Um, but this Goku, that doesn't mean a character needs those mechanics to be really good. It's just more so easier to tell, I think, for a lot of people because we associate those mechanics with some of the better characters in the game. So while it is a little worrying, and sometimes this Goku Black, he can die to supers. I think in the actual in-game gameplay, when you use him on that team, at least in my opinion, with Broly Trio,
I'm sorry. My internet pooped out again as soon as you started explaining your point.
that's fine.
The internet is your biggest op. I'm sorry. They didn't want me to hear your truth. I'm sorry, buddy.
Look, I think now I forgot what I was saying, man. But okay, I remember. It's just the thing where when you actually use them in practice, it's just you understand like the synergy between the team and all the characters, and it's just a little different. So that's why it's always good to see the actual like in-game gameplay. Well, so I always did think that this guy was going to end up being a good character. I still personally view him around like AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku tier. I think that the biggest thing with him and AGL Goku, and why I probably think AGL Goku is still a little better, is just because they're typing, right? And this Goku Black has hurt a little from being physical. It's not really his fault, but it's just how the game is, where there's a lot of STR bosses right now that could really put this guy in a big disadvantageous state. Like, let's say, Sword of Hope Trunks fight. Like, let's say this guy's in Thought 7, then that boy, excuse me, he locks him in slot 1 and I think he could seal, if I'm not mistaken. Then he's just like a sitting duck in slot 1, right? Well, it's like Eijo Goku. Obviously, he would have type advantage there. Gogeta Blue, his AoE, if, Super Saiyan Goku doesn't really have to worry about that as much as this Goku Black does, or Cell Max, right? This Goku Black can't really debuff him in the first 3 phases, unless you get a godly amount of key spheres for this guy, right? You could run into issues, right? And it's just a thing where if he was like an AGL character, like it's a thing where you can move him up like a couple of spots on like a tier list, it's something to think about as well. But I do like this guy a lot, and I think that especially when we get like more, I think even just like type neutral bosses, less STR phase bosses, I think that this Goku Black could flourish a little more and spread his wings more. So we'll see. Maybe Tanabata will give us a difficult event. Worldwide is upcoming soon, so we'll see how things go. It seems like they really want to build up super bosses, and maybe they will continue to do so during the next year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I hope so.
for sure.
Sounds good.
I mean,
Bring him to global straight away.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of global, I know you said that could be like unknown, but if global ends up getting Ginyu and Gotenks next, which seems like that might be what happens now, is Gotenks and then Ginyu coming next, because I feel like if Ginyu would come out, Gotenks is super easy would have released with him. It could be a thing where this Goku Black comes out with the Topo release, which would probably be post anniversary pre-worldwide and global, is what I'm thinking would happen. Whenever like if Topo does release that spot, because Ink Gotenks isn't was already on global. A lot of the kind of EZAs are on global there, and Topo is a super boss's character.
Like, there's a thing. I did a video about it the other day. Like, if you go through like part 1. Like, if you go through the first part of like Topo's celebration, like Global's already got like half that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I think they might move all the extra content that came out on the GP version of the celebration for Goku Black will just be moved to the Topo release. That's my theory right now, and that could include this Super EZA Goku Black. So realistically, he might not be too far off. There's also the theory that we'll talk about in a bit that this Yellow Coin LR coming to JP will be part of the EX celebration of the 9th anniversary, or EX, because we know at the end of the 9th anniversary we got Vegito and Butenks on JP, their EZAs.
But we got them early on global.
Yep, exactly.
Honestly, am I? I know this is crazy to say as a JP name, but honestly, low key, okay. I feel like this is a bit of a double-edged sword. Because on one hand, I was gonna say this would actually be a huge global W over JP if Cellmax did come for the EX part, because then that's Beast into Cell Max during the anniversary for global, which would be amazing. But at the same time, that's also 5 that you have to summon on. So
I mean, at least this one would have pity.
That's true. That is true. But at the same time, it's still like that's a lot to give the player. Like, as I've heard people say that. I've heard one buddy of mine who's like, he's a little bit more like casual when it comes to Dokkan. He was like, oh yeah, like the this character will be coming for the part 3 banners, and I was like, buddy, I hate to tell you this, there ain't no part 3 banners, but like that's the thing though, is that like I feel like it's so funny because from a concept perspective, that's like such a cool thing to do. But from a realistic perspective, that sucks because then you have to summon more.
I mean, well, it's a thing where during that section, Topo would release anyways. So it's like a banner would come out regardless every 2 weeks. It's just that they're putting so much instead of Topo, right? So like, I don't think it's as big of a deal, but like if you like group it into the anniversary like thought process, it's like, dang, during this anniversary they released 5 banners. That's insane. But it'd be still the same thing where if Topo released there and all the anniversaries 4 banners, it's still the same time span releases 5 banners, right? But still, I see your viewpoint there where it's like, I think Cell Max will be a more desirable character to a lot of people than the what it's called, the Topo banner, right? I think
and
Cell Max.
If he comes out right after Beast, I think that would just be more smart marketing on their part, because then it's like, well, people are like, well, I got the character he fights. So I want to get the villain that he fights, so.
That makes a lot of sense. But before we hop into talk about, kind of like Cell Max, I guess we went into a little bit here because although we're going to talk about it in a bit, we kind of just like said it. But before we continue on to like part 2 of our talk and why, it might be Cell Max, per the title, we have this free-to-play character that came out, and this is going to little dabble into there. We don't have a lot about this guy's kit or what he's going to do, but this is a new free-to-play SSR base form Bardock that came out with the recent Storm Mode update in GP. You actually buy him through incredible gems in the shop rather than farming his card up, which I honestly think is a lot better because not having to farm like this stage like 5 times and like RNG drops the card, right? It's just so much easier to just buy instantly, right?
It's really interesting because like, here's the thing, right? I understand people's perspective, but at the same time, I saw people complaining about this on Twitter that you couldn't farm him. But like, if you play Dokkan in like any capacity, you should have 1,000,000 green gems, right? You should have so many incredible gems you will like literally never run out.
I mean, like
And so
for like
yeah, go ahead. Wait.
we can go like, I don't know, let's say 2 days they release content, and sometimes the content they drop don't even cost stamina.
Yeah.
But then like you have like 5 days of the week where you could use your stamina. It's like what else are you gonna really use it on? So if you use your stamina properly and you care about like taking advantage
and link
of your
levels
stamina,
and stuff, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you would be link leveling, right? So it's like you would be farming and getting those gems.
You'd be getting the gems. And like, I don't know, bro. It's just like it was so easy because he doesn't even cost that much either. Like
100, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 100 per, right? And that's like you sneeze and you get that amount. So I was just like, I don't know why y'all are complaining, bro. This is like light work, basically. And they give you 5 copies in the gift box anyway when you first open the game, when that like update came out. So I don't know. I think it's better for him to be in the shop because then that way, it's just easier to be able to obtain the character. I guess I could see the argument that it's like, oh, well, maybe it won't be story related. It'll just be like a new Bardock or something. But I don't know. I think it's just an easier way to get the character. I do think what's interesting about this guy is the fact that now I know a lot of people were talking about, including myself, that he's on Space Traveling Warriors, right? Which is very interesting because obviously there's a couple of things with that, right? For one, that tells us basically like one of two things or two things, right? Since he's a quest mode LR, that is most likely the reason why he is on that category, because obviously the characters from quest mode are characters that like travel through time. So, they're probably on there because of that fact. Because obviously, since in the story mode, they're all getting like sucked through to the area that then the story mode takes place. They're giving them that category because it's a Dokkan specific character. Now, with that being said, though, that also doesn't rule out the possibility that he could end up becoming Super Saiyan, because obviously, he goes Super Saiyan when he travels through time, right? When he gets... However that works, that still makes no sense that he gets blasted by Frieza's blast, and then he ends up in the past. But go off, King. We do. We really do.
I know we talked about it on the episode back when he got his EZA, but yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's like, bro, I want to know the logic for the episode, but whatever. It's still very cool. I love the Bardock specials, but
yeah.
Anyhow, yeah, no, so that could also mean that he'll end up becoming a Super Saiyan. Obviously, this guy will become an LR because of the potential system, and also. Right now I know Minato was saying before the podcast started he's missing 2 links. So those will probably be his awakening link and then legendary power. So that'll be really interesting to see what this guy ends up becoming when he actually fully awakens. We probably won't even have to wait that long, to be honest with you, because I know with Broly and Trunks, they did not take that long to get those guys fully awakened. I think over the course of a month they ended up becoming an LR, or maybe a little bit more, but it wasn't that long.
It was 2 months between each awakening on JP and then 1 month on global. So they
that's what I was thinking of with the 1 month. Yeah.
Do you know that we're getting new stages for the story mode like next week? I think. If I'm not mistaken.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness. We should be getting new stages, I think, for the story mode next week. Yeah, on the 17th.
Gotcha.
We are getting new stages. So actually, that does confirm something where the data download should be on the 17th of. Okay, so that means that the reveal might be the 17th for the Part 2 LR. I was talking about it before the stream started, but we'll talk about it in a bit about the Part 2 LR stuff. But go on.
But yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I know for me personally, I definitely want this guy to be an LR, because I think that an LR, a Super Saiyan rather, because obviously, I think it would be really cool. We also don't have an LR Super Saiyan Bardock, right?
Nope.
No, we don't.
I don't think
We have
so.
we have
so
one. We just have the one base LR Bardock, right? The physical one. So
yes, he is the only summonable LR Bardock. Obviously, we have Team LR Bardock technically, but
yeah, true.
I don't even know if they really count. But yes, obviously Fizz Bardock, and that's crazy too because he was obviously in the 100% LR era. So that boy, I do love that unit though. But with that being said, yeah, apparently I'm just sneezing now. Sorry. Dokkan Asset sneeze compilation about to be up on YouTube. I was gonna say, what do you guys want to see like this guy turn into when he awakens proper?
I think there's one option I think I want to see. I know you guys are interested in seeing the Super Saiyan Bardock.
Yeah.
But then I think another thing we could see is still just an exchange of Bardock that exchanges into Goku. I think is very likely. Because he's on all these Bardock teams, right? So we know that he's not going to be like some joined forces character.
Yeah.
But I think it could be that exchange like Bardock Goku that people want. And I just feel like I don't see them just doing like Super Saiyan Bardock or normal Bardock. He's gonna be some character that is like completely random. It could even be something we don't know. What if it's a Bardock? And like imagine Bardock has to work together with Cooler. And then it's like a Bardock that exchanges into Cooler, or Bardock that exchanges into some other Saiyan or someone that he has to work with. Like I don't know. Imagine, this is really cool to me. Just like a thought just came to my mind right now because I really like these two characters. But imagine like a Bardock that exchanges into Piccolo or a Bardock that exchanges into Trunks, right? Something like that could be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like I feel like it might just be something we just completely are not expecting. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think something that would be very interesting is obviously the exchange thing is something that I hadn't really thought about before because of course like the starting character, they just have all of those links and categories and stuff, right? Like the
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Goku and Gohan.
I'm being cooked right now, dude.
Yeah, it's like STR Goku and Gohan from Golden Week. Obviously are on like Pure Saiyans. They just have all like the Goku linked categories and then exchange into Gohan. So yeah, technically you could exchange into anyone. The thing that would be cool is obviously it's a Dokkan original thing, so that's why the characters are like time travelers. But it would be cool if they took some it could be taking some inspiration potentially from like the Xenoverse type stuff, and maybe he awakens into like a Super Saiyan 3 or even Super Saiyan 4 Bardock. That would be pretty cool.
I'm going to die. I'm sorry.
Oh
my gosh.
I think that'd be cool though, Ningen, for sure.
But yeah, having him
I do agree.
Something above base would be awesome. Because yeah, realistically, if he's not exchanging, then he can only really be base Bardock, right? Because he's on all of those categories, and as we know, like characters, they can give them extra categories, but they don't take them away, like when they get their awakening. So that's the thing. When he first appeared, I saw a bunch of people before anyone had even looked at the card details. People were like, oh, this is going to be Bardock and Goku, or like Bardock and somebody else. And it's like, well, yeah, it can't be like a joined forces card because that character literally has to be on like Team Bardock, Goku family, like all of these other things at the same time.
Yeah.
And there are no other characters that can be on all of those categories. And that's one of the things we were talking about a little bit before the start of the episode. And of course, Theo mentioned, I think Minato mentioned it too while we were chatting about it, is the fact that like the time travelers category could just be because of the Dokkan story. Because yeah, if you look at your box, like obviously I have like every Bardock, so I can check to make sure. But like if you filter by your units, right, there are no Bardocks in the game that are on Team Bardock and Time Travelers. It's always one or the other. Because the Bardock special Bardock is a time traveler, but by that point, like the Super Saiyan special one, by that point there is no more Team Bardock, so he's not on that category.
Right.
And the OG, like Father of Goku special, is obviously on Team Bardock, but is not a time traveler. So this guy's the only Bardock that's on both of those categories.
And keep in mind that the Trunks and Broly are on time travelers, even though I don't think like movie 8 Broly is not on time travelers, right? That's like where that restricted Broly is. So
yeah.
keep in mind that that character is also on that category, so it makes sense if like this guy is on that category only because of the story mode, and that's what I'm thinking it is. So yeah, Theo is not having a good time.
I'm not. I'm not. I took off my glasses. My eyes are watering like crazy
That's
right now.
insane. Well, everyone,
I'm not cooking.
pray Theo for a better time because this guy is going through it. But
I really am, bro. Oh my gosh.
that's all we have to really say about the Bardock. I think not much.
I'm so sad about Bardock. I'm crying, bro.
We do know that again. He is going to be an LR though. Yeah, because he does have the 5,000 stats, which only free to play LRs,
Yeah.
for free to play characters will have those stats. Otherwise, a normal free to play TUR has like the, I guess you can call the gimped, not LR stats, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. But continuing on from there, we do have something that we kind of touched on earlier, something part of the title. That is the Part 2 LR for JP. It seems like there was a teaser given for this Part 2 LR, which Ningen should probably have on the screen by now. But it's like this like little swimming pool that's like with water overflowing through it and just leaking out on the side. There's a lot of like thoughts and speculation on this, but Ningen, I'll let you take it off because I think of course you saw it a few hours ago at this point, and I saw it like when I woke up this morning.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this hint? What do you think it might represent?
It's interesting because we were talking about it before. Like this is funny. They tweeted this out like an hour after they normally tweet out news.
Yeah.
Because I streamed this morning. Shout out to anyone that was there. But like I normally end my early streams around the time that news gets posted. So we kind of wait until 9 a.m. UK time, and if there's no news, then obviously sort of wrap up the stream there. And yeah, this. Got to 9 o'clock, no news, so I was like, right, wrap up the stream, and then this literally got tweeted like an hour later. But yeah, one of the things that I always find funny with these, like, the random teasers that they've started doing, which is cool, it always, gives people things to talk about. It's always interesting to see what other people interpret these things to be. But, like, I don't know if it's just me, but, like, if I had seen this tweet as soon as it got made, like, if I was just scrolling on Twitter and then this appeared at the top of my timeline, I would look at this and have absolutely no idea what this was supposed to be. So it's funny that, obviously, people who are obviously much smarter than me, pick out these like references for what they're supposed to be, and then obviously everyone kind of jumps on the one that they think is the most likely. So of course it's in the title. The one that we most people seem to be leaning towards is the Cell Max, because obviously he comes out of that pool of water after the containment thing breaks, and it makes sense, right? Because it's releasing on JP as the Part 2 LR in a celebration that is clearly very super bosses like focused, right?
Yeah.
Rose he introduced the category on global, but Rose has it as the leader skill. He needs super bosses allies in his passive. Then we get the physical Goku Black Super EZA, and he wants to be run with super bosses. So it always would make sense that the Part 2 LR should be a super bosses character. And yeah, obviously Cell Max would fit that description. I know a lot of people aren't super hyped about a Cell Max character. For me personally, I think it's great. Like, he's very similar to Harudagon. Like, a lot of people don't like, just big raging kaiju monster. But I mean, I'm a big fan of like the Godzilla franchise, so I'm perfectly happy with big.
Who doesn't like Godzilla, bro?
Yeah, exactly. So plus, you got to think about like the animations. I know we've talked about this. I think it was back when the anniversary was happening, and people were wondering if we would get Cell Max, and obviously we got the Gammas, but like even the stuff that he could have as his animations are super cool. Like he does that what I assume would be an AoE, where he fires the beams out of like all of the spots on his body. He has the crazy like death ball thing that he does at the end, or tries to do at the end, right before he gets hit with the special beam cannon. So he's got some cool like things that would make for some interesting animations. So I'd be pretty down for the Cell Max. The only other one that I saw that I thought was kind of cool, or at least made sense, is I saw a few people posting about Broly, because obviously when he transforms in, I think it's the original Broly movie, right? He says about like his ki is overflowing, and obviously like the pool in the image is overflowing. So
oh my gosh, it's something. My power is something overflowing. I don't remember what
I
the
think it's like
exact line
rising. My
is, but
power is
yeah, something
rising,
along-
overflowing.
Yeah,
something
power
like
is
that, yeah.
my power is rising, overflowing. Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, that's what the water in the pool is kind of doing. Which, I mean, you could say that is a stretch, but then at the same time, if the LR was a Broly, you could then see this and go, well, yeah, I guess that does make sense, right? So, those are the two main ones that I saw. I don't know what you guys feel about the about this teaser. I don't know if you had any ideas yourself before you saw other people's ones, but yeah, like I say, I would have looked at this and had absolutely no idea. So I'm glad other people posted all those Cell Max gifs.
Honestly, yeah. I would have never guessed Cell Max until I
Mm-mm.
saw. I think it was
Mm-mm.
Proton, did post the Cell Max kind of idea, but I think for Cell Max it makes a lot of sense. The overflowing energy for Broly, right? There's talk that this might not even be for the part 2 LR, and this could be for Tanabata.
Yeah.
And if it's like for Tanabata, I could easily see this being like overflowing energy for Broly, and then it's like a Broly themed Tanabata celebration. Could make a lot of sense to me, right? I mean, Tackler Broly has not gone his EZA. That boy's just sitting there. What are they doing with that?
He's just
Right?
sitting
He's
there.
just sitting there. It's like how Dragon Fist Goku was sitting there for months, dude. And then now Broly's in the same predicament. I'm just saying that's something we should keep in mind. But
I will say
yeah, no.
too, the only thing would be for if this is for the part 2 LR and not for Tanabata, right?
Mhm.
And say this teaser is for Z Broly specifically. I don't really think it makes sense because obviously he's not a super boss. So I don't think Z Broly is likely if this is a part 2. However, if this does end up being for Tanabata, then obviously that would make more sense.
Well, what I would say as well is Rose does leave Kurota body in mind, and I think that controlled Super Saiyan Broly, when he's controlled with the mind device by Paragus, theoretically, would he
Yeah,
not
that would be
fit
cool.
Kurota body in mind? Which is part of Rose's
Yes,
leader
I would
skill.
say so.
So I think if he would fit that category, then like a transforming Broly into like legendary Super Saiyan Broly would be on the Karate Body and Mind category, and he would then fit Rose's leader skill if that's the thing. Because I don't think we
True.
ever have gotten like that Super Saiyan Broly just as a standalone card. Let me take a look here because we had that one Broly that Dokkan Awakened in Super Saiyan 3. I think that was before categories were even a thing in game.
Well, and also would movie 2 Broly not technically be on Corroded Body and Mind?
No, because he no longer had the mind control device, right?
I mean, like, because he's like sick in the head.
Well, no, I don't think that. I mean, Super Broly also was kind of like just
True.
So I don't think that's the requirement. I think the requirement is more to,
it's more like
being
true
mind controlled or something like that, right? And it's like, I think that it would make sense if the like normal Super Saiyan controlled Broly, I guess the only thing is that his name would still be Super Saiyan Broly, and then he would clash with the Tekla Broly and the 9th anniversary Broly, which would fit with what they did with Base Goku last year, to be fair. But it would be funny if that Super Saiyan Broly was like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it could be like a base form Broly, and then he transforms into Super Saiyan. Then after he transforms into Legendary, that could also be possible. But we'll have to see how they do it, because it could be a thing where maybe like we see the intro is Paragus like using the mind device and calming Broly down, and then the transformation is Broly breaking through Paragus's mind control and going Legendary Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
That could be really cool. But yeah, no, I think that's like it. That's like someone in chat said that's a stretch. I would agree. That's just like, you could fit it there. I think it makes much more sense for it to be Cell Max. But I just don't think it's impossible.
I do too.
Someone in chat say just don't be Bio Broly.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Could you
That would
imagine?
be funny if it was Bio Broly.
I don't think it could be Bio Broly.
Yeah, I don't think
But
it.
That would be
Well,
fun.
yeah, no, he comes out of like a tank, so I don't think it really fits. Plus, he's not a super boss or corroded body of mind, so it doesn't make any sense. Thank goodness. But
yeah,
but yeah, Cell
could
Max
you
makes a lot of
imagine?
sense because of the super boss's connection. And I mentioned this in the video that I made earlier as well, is that obviously he's going to be one of these characters that will go a lot better on like this newer sort of physical Rose and physical Goku Black version of super bosses, because obviously, you know, we don't have one in the game yet, but all the other cells have it. Is he should be a big bad bosses character as well, which obviously Rose and Goku Black both have, whereas Broly doesn't. So like the Goku Black version of the big bad the super bosses team has a lot of these characters now that have the big bad bosses link, which Cell will probably have, or Cell Max will probably have, being that he is like, you know, because we know from the Cell Max boss, from the card description, like the thing in the game, like he's on movie bosses, super bosses, Battle of Fate, so there's almost no way he doesn't have big bad bosses link. So that'll be very good for him being on the team with like Rose and physical Goku Black and stuff. So very interested to see if it is him, what they're gonna do, because he could be pretty good.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean-
It's going to be interesting to see as well. I am wondering if it is Cell Max from the animation perspective, if they do decide to actually incorporate the funny boss super that we've had like a million times.
I
I
mean,
would
he
think
does
it would
so
be.
many animations. I think he would be rich in like a lot of them, because we don't
I
have
would think so too.
we don't have
Yeah.
the giant green like sphere he does. He's like, ah.
Yep.
We don't have
Mhm.
like
There's so much stuff
the
missing from
beams
him.
of light that he has, right? They can make some interesting things in terms of how strong he'll be. I mean, we've seen Dokkan really likes to make things anime manga accurate in terms of the kit, for the most part. So I feel like Cell Max would just be kind of busted, almost like it's the first Cell Max.
I hope so.
I mean, we saw how good Orange Piccolo was. Ultimate Gohan was
Yeah.
kind of silly, to be fair. But like, you know, Blue Gogeta and Broly release, they're insane, right? So I think that they've been doing a good job this year with unit releases. I feel like he'll be good. He'll be really, really
Yeah, I
good.
think so.
Just like a disgusting Slot 1 character, maybe even.
Mm.
We'll see what happens. But I think this guy could be a very powerful force. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
like I'm thinking like, you know, like how Tech Jiren was when he came out. He's just like that guy, you know? That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I think what it needs to be, like, because obviously you were saying before about how with the way Goku Black fits onto that Super Bosses team, I feel like he needs to be like a solid slot 1 character and just have absolutely no part of his passive be him requiring a certain number of orbs. And then he'll fit on that team really nicely, because it won't be another unit that needs like to pick up a certain amount of orbs, right? And then he can leave physical Goku Black, Rose, Broly trio to like do their thing with the orbs, and he doesn't have to worry about taking loads of them as well. I think that's probably the best outcome for him. Because yeah, similar to Haruda, we talked about how he's like a similar character, quote unquote, to like Harudagon, but man, that guy is frustrating to use as a slot 1 unit on these teams, right? Because as soon as you don't dodge, you just get immediately annihilated. So hopefully, big strong tank. I mean, it's funny because we say about like keeping the kits as sort of lore accurate or whatever, but I mean, it's remember that they never used to do that for Broly, right? Broly, the ultimate tank. And yet, when he came out in Dokkan, his units were always like a glass cannon character. So, because realistically, Cell Max should be an absolute
tanky, though.
Yeah, the new one especially, like obviously with when he's, you know, transformed and doing all of his things. But yeah, realistically, this guy should be like a slot 1 tank, tons of damage reduction. Like, but we'll see. But yeah, he should be pretty interesting. I obviously, as I said already, I've never been opposed to getting a Cell Max, so I'd be interested if it is him to see how he turns out.
Imagine like he just does like one attack, but it's just like 40, 50 mil. And then like he has an active skill turn where he just like throws out a single like 100 mil attack. So he's like, I don't know, like maybe exaggerating, but you guys get my point. We're just like one single mega attack. That could be insane.
But yeah,
like
so
what if it's a thing where it's like sorry, one last thing where it's like the Super Saiyan 2 Angel Vegeta, Whereas like the more key you're at, the higher attack percentage you get. So when you're at 24 key, you get like 300% multiplicative attack, and he's like, that'd be crazy.
I mean, that'd be awesome. I mean, there's a lot of
would
things
be
they
indeed.
definitely could do in order to make him interesting, right? Because it's funny because they've already got that little intro cutscene, right, from when you first play the actual.
Yeah,
event.
I am curious if they're gonna use that as like his intro. I mean,
I would
literally, why not? Right? Just use that as the intro. You know?
I feel like they just won't want to reuse it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
kinda
Well, I
don't
mean,
want- I don't want them
I
to,
mean, from the
but-
perspective of like, I mean,
Maybe
from
they
the
could remake
perspective
it.
if he wasn't going to have an intro,
Yes. Yeah.
like if they
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
planning on it, then bam, there you go, less work for them.
If it's like between that and no intro, then I would rather have that.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I see
agreed.
your point. I think if they're gonna give him an intro, they're probably
Yeah.
gonna make something different, anyways.
Yeah.
Will be interesting to see because like I say, like if the choice was no intro or just give him the one from the event, then yeah, absolutely give him that. But yeah, a different one would be quite interesting. And then of course, we talked about it last time as well. We still don't really have any ideas, but if it is going to be the part 2 LR, then obviously we still don't know what's going on for global. Whether we'll get that as well, or whether we'll get Ginyu, or will we get both? I know that was your idea, Minato. I mentioned it when I talked about it in a video the other day that you'd said it. I think on the last episode even. But yeah, imagine global getting. That'd be such a crazy banner to drop as well. Like LR Ginyu Force and Cell Max on a banner like on global next week. That would be certainly an interesting
That'd be
one.
kind of crazy.
Because, yeah, I don't know if we had it on the list of things to talk about, but one of the things that I find very strange, I think Goresh tweeted about it. Somebody mentioned it on the stream this morning to me, I think. But if we just follow the schedule the way we think it would have been for, like, the last couple of years, right? Like, if we were taking out any sort of speculations about, like, the sync and all that other kind of stuff, the unit that we would be expecting to come out next on Global would be Ginyu. And, like, last year, when they dropped Super Buu, it didn't really matter that he wasn't coming out as the part 2 for Kale, because even though technically he was on her leader skill, like he wasn't made to go on her team or anything. Whereas if they drop the LR Ginyu Force like next week on Global, their entire passive and like all of their kit is built around being run on the special pose team, which without having already had like the Topo celebration, that team sucks on Global. Like we haven't had any of the buffs, none of the new units, like none of the EZAs. It's a kind of one of those things where I know it's the banner right before the anniversary, so for the most part it's a skip for a lot of people anyway, but like, man, even if you're someone who was kind of excited for that Ginyu Force unit, they really are dropping them at such a weird time for Global if they are coming out next, because like how do you run them? Like what team do you run them on Global? I mean, AGL Ginyu team, like you could still use it, I guess, but struggles against the toughest content in the game. I don't know how well that team does with all the crazy support that the LR gives, because I know the LR is quite good. But yeah, it's a very weird one for Global for that unit to drop, because I think, isn't it, to do their active skill you basically have to have a full special pose or Ginyu Force team, which, yeah, what team are you running on Global for that? I don't know.
Yeah, you're not running that team, so I mean, yeah, no, it's just a pretty bad team. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be a thing where you have in-go tanks, and then you have maybe they'll bring the sub EZAs. Right, there's the Ribrian, Saiyaman, etc. Tech Super Saiyan 3 Go tanks, and then it's like, oh, Topo will release, and it's like all you're missing theoretically from there is Topo as your leader instead of in-go tanks. Probably will be what they would do if they're going to drop Ginyu. But who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
It'll be very
strange.
interesting to see. I do think I don't know, that Ginyu Force team is always so interesting because it's like, it's so funny because I swear every time a new Ginyu comes out, I mean, like obviously you're using the units, I guess, for the Ginyu Force team. For the LR Ginyu Force, you're using the ones from like the HL Ginyu celebration. But it's always so funny to me that I feel like whenever a new Ginyu Force character comes out, it's basically like, it's like their team or nothing. I don't know. Every time it's always like, you just have to run the gang, which is like kind of cool in one way, because it's like, oh well, you have to run the boys basically, but at the same time, it's also like, well, leaves them so restricted that I feel like you'd almost just be better off running something else. Depending, right? Because obviously, if you're somebody who has all the units, then that's one thing. But unless you're summoning on that specific banner, you might not end up getting all the characters you need for that team. Ironically enough, Legends also does the same thing with the new Ginyu Force units, because they literally have like a full Ginyu Force team, but they're on, for some reason, a specific Ginyu Force banner. And like the units are weird where they're not like in the unfeatured pool, but they're also not like festival characters or anything. They're not LFs, but they're stuck on their own weird like solo Ginyu Force banner. I don't know. So at least in Dokkan you can get some of them unfeatured, but I think it's kind of funny that both games do that, where it's like, run the Ginyu Force team as a group, or else. I don't know. I guess that makes sense with like the Ginyu Force's gimmick, right? But still, it's very interesting. But either way, though, yeah, it'll be curious to see. I'm going to be really curious to see too how this all goes down, like right before anniversary and right after anniversary, because I think that'll be pretty telling of the sync. I mean, we'll probably know about the sync once, obviously, the anniversary starts, because that's what they said was going to be the time. But it'll be interesting to see either way.
We'll definitely see what happens. But yeah, so I mean, in terms of Dokkan, that's all there is really to talk about. But we did want to make a little segment here for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Just real quick, just because there has been a lot of news here, and I think a lot of us in the community have been very excited for Sparking Zero. But just before we continue on real quickly, I just want to give a quick reminder that all donations and super chats will be read out at the end of the show. If you want anything to say that we will guaranteed read, feel free to do so, and we appreciate any support. But yeah, I mean, Sparking Zero, man, this has been a very exciting topic and something that we've all been looking forward to for quite some time. I mean, we got so much gameplay and so many like reveals and stuff like that. I understand Ningen hasn't like seen too much of the recent stuff, but Dokkan Acids, I know you've seen some stuff. What are your thoughts on this game, and maybe some kind of things in terms of animations that you saw you would like to see in Dokkan, right?
Well, they've been straight cooking. First of all, obviously the game looks beautiful, right? So in the animation department in the game, they have been definitely doing a good job. This is the type of thing where like it's pretty clear that the people who are working on this game are Dragon Ball fans, right? You can tell by, it's like every animation that you would look and think like, okay, surely this character is gonna have this, right? They do. Like everything that you could imagine that's that type of thing. Basically they they have it unlocked, which is really, really cool to see. Obviously it's so nice to see a Dragon Ball game in a modern not just aesthetic but also just like game, because obviously, right, like the newest I believe the newest Dragon Ball game was Kakarot, if memory serves correctly, which is kind of crazy because Kakarot actually came out a little while ago now, but in terms of like obviously having a game on modern hardware, modern graphics, all that good stuff. It's very cool that we're finally getting one, especially one this expansive and from such a beloved franchise. I think in terms of relating it to Dokkan, though, of course, I do think that it would be really, really cool if we could get some kind of, Dokkan collab or something like that with Sparking Zero. Now, obviously, there isn't like a Sparking Zero specific character or something like that, like how Legends has funny Shallot or something like that, or Shallot, however people like to say it. But I definitely think that they could still do like, how like for fighters we have like an Android 16, that's basically like from fighters, right? Specifically where he does the funny dunk,
Mhm.
or obviously like that type of thing. I think that that's definitely something that they could do, where they could do like a Sparking Zero version of like Goku or Vegeta or whatever. I think honestly one thing that could be really cool. Funny enough, we were talking about this, or I like just made a tweet about this on Twitter, that for Blue Goku's intro, like when you pick Blue Goku in the game, he keeps the animation that was in like the first trailer. Like I remember that very first trailer that we saw a fat minute ago. That one, right? He still keeps that same animation for his intro. So I honestly think that that could be kind of cool if they did something like that, where they gave us like a Blue Goku with that animation specifically, and then one of his supers in the game. They could definitely like do that. I think that'd be cool. Yeah, I know that.
I want Ningen to actually show on the screen. There's this animation for Vegeta that's like new to Sparking Zero. I'm not sure where they may have gotten the inspiration from, but like seeing this in Dokkan would be really cool. Like I don't if Ningen wants to show on the screen potentially.
Let me look.
It looks really, really awesome. So that's like his.
Oh yeah, this animation. I was gonna say this too.
Really sick.
I think it's so cool because this also, I think another thing to really think about and talk about, when it comes to
that looks awesome.
Like Sparking Zero, it does look really cool. The other thing I think that's something awesome to think about as well is even like less restrictive than like Sparking Zero specific characters, right? I think that also another great way to think about this is that, like, man, do you guys realize like how much of a possibility this opens up now for just even more units in Dokkan? Like, thanks to Sparking Zero, I think we now have at least an extra 3 years on Dokkan's lifespan, because there are so many animations now that they can just take from characters, like from Sparking Zero original animations, and just slap them on to characters that are, just like normal Dragon Ball characters, right? Like literally any Dragon Ball character. It doesn't have to even be Goku and Vegeta, right? Anybody now, that has like an original animation from Sparking Zero, or even just like, a compilation of a bunch of different animations from different things in Dragon Ball media that is that an original, because Sparking Zero was the first one to string them together that way. With that type of thing, right? There are so many more opportunities now in Dokkan thanks to Sparking Zero's existence. Now that we have, like this, right? Now that we have a bunch more animations, and like even looking at that Vegeta animation, it's pretty clear that obviously they're doing some original stuff for this game, which is awesome. So not only does it have to, not only can they, I'm sure, do some Sparking Zero specific animations, but it opens up some huge doors for the future of Dokkan as well, which is really awesome to see. Because they take inspiration from like everywhere at this point, right? Like we've seen even inspiration, I know we always talk about how like there are no like manga characters, but even once in a while they still take some inspiration from stuff for the manga. So, with this, it's just like another thing where, they obviously don't have to like call it like a Sparking Zero character or something like that. They can just call it, like a regular Goku Vegeta Dokkan Fest or whatever, but, just use the animation from Sparking Zero and there you go, right? Easy pickings in that regard. So I think with that being said, I'm really excited for Sparking Zero in the perspective of then it will give us some good things for Dokkan in the future. Because obviously, it's just more content, right? It's just more to work with, basically, which I think is really cool. It's always nice, whenever we get some kind of like new thing when it comes to like Dragon Ball related media, because I'm sure it's like literally just us because we're Dokkan crackheads. But every time it happens, man, that's like my first thought. I'm like, oh, that's going to be an animation in Dokkan, and that's going to be an animation in Dokkan, and oh, look at that right there. There's an intro, there's an active skill. So,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, so many of these like intros in Sparking Zeros, you know, even just like normal attacks, right? I mean, Sparking Zero has so much attention to detail. I don't know if you saw, I think Slavix literally posted this like during the podcast that I saw actually. It's like when Broly is transformed in full power and is hitting the enemy, you could see the dimension shattered.
Yeah.
It's
that's
really sick. It's just so much detail attention
Oh, yeah.
that they can borrow into Dokkan.
Honestly, I think like this is the type of thing, right? Like looking at Sparking Zero, like this is what I feel like Dragon Ball games should aspire to be.
Yeah.
Like it kind of, I feel like in my mind, there's sort of been something that's been like a little bit of like heart has been missing from like Dragon Ball games. And I know this is ironic considering we won't get into the whole thing about all the day one DLC and the all those shenanigans, right? Because obviously, you know, funny corporations will be funny corporations, but you know, it definitely feels like in terms of the people who developed the game and made it, right? It feels like that it's definitely a love letter to the franchise rather than we're doing this for money. You know? So I think with that being said, right, I think Dragon Ball definitely needs a lot more of that because I think that that's something that's certainly been missing from the franchise in recent years in just like a lot of different aspects of it in general, you know, not even just to mention the you know, like the marketing of stuff. You know, Superhero was so piss poor marketed, you know, that like it's like the difference from the Broly movie marketing and this movie's marketing. Like, we could be here for a whole other podcast episode, so I won't get into it. But you know, even with like how Daima has gone, right? The Daima marketing has been honestly pretty terrible, all things considered. It's not as bad as Superhero, I think. I think they've done a little bit better of a job with the Daima stuff. But I think for sure that they could be doing way, way, way better. I mean, I'm sure you guys even saw, like, just as an example of the whole thing with Daima, like, I'm sure you guys even saw the, I guess it's just a promotional poster, right, is what that would be, where it was quite literally just, like, the PNG of Goku and Shinron, and, like, the Shinron PNG was cut off. It wasn't even cropped properly. And there was also lines on it too, right? Like there were scan lines basically. And it's like, bro, come on. You are $1 billion corporation with $1 billion franchise. This is unacceptable. So it's nice to see that it really feels like they've been giving it their all. Especially too in the regards of the marketing as well with Sparking Zero. I can definitely say that they've been doing a very good job of that. You know, they've been showing off the game in a bunch of different, you know, like gaming events. So it's not like only a Dragon Ball related stuff, right? Like obviously Battle Hour for us is really cool as Dragon Ball fans because, you know, obviously it's like Dragon Ball fans watching it for Dragon Ball games, but obviously run of the mill Joe Schmo, which is the type of people that you also want to get interested in the game, so it makes more money and you get more projects like this in the future, right? Obviously, those are also the type of people you want to get invested who are, you know, people who aren't as deep in the rabbit hole as we are. They've definitely been doing a good job advertising to that crowd as well. You know, like it's pretty easy to tell a good way to gauge marketing for something for me is it because my friends know I'm a big Dragon Ball head. If they see something Dragon Ball related, they'll tell me about it and be like, oh yeah, this looks pretty cool. I can tell you the difference that not a single soul knew about Superhero until I mentioned it to them. And the day that the Sparking Zero trailer came out, 5 of my friends who don't watch Dragon Ball were in my DMs about it. I think that's, you know, that's an easy way to tell the difference between, you know, how good the marketing is for something Dragon Ball related. If it's like, you know, the people who aren't into the franchise are mentioning it, right? So, either way, though, I think they've definitely been doing a good job with the game. But yeah, I know I got off a little bit of side tangent. But in terms of Dokkan, yeah, I'm very excited to see, you know, what they do and how they then incorporate this in a Dokkan. Because I genuinely think, like, every time some new Dragon Ball media comes out, it's just adding years to Dokkan's lifespan. It's just a W for us, honestly.
Yeah.
So, either way, though, thank you for coming to my talk.
I definitely agree. I think seeing that like just everything Sparking Zero is doing is just great. And hopefully, a lot of that passion gets put similarly into Dokkan in the later part of the year. Once you start rolling into Tanabata, Global Anniversary, Worldwide, it's going to be a pretty exciting time for us too. Then it's like we're going to lead into Daima, then Sparking Zero before
That would be awesome.
It's going to be crazy next few months. Then Dokkan
Daima and Sparking Zero could come out the same month as well, which would actually be so crazy.
I think it's November potentially for Daima. We don't know for sure, but imagine it's going to be next month, Global Anniversary, and the JP Tanabata. The month after, basically, then at the end of the month after, it's going to be Worldwide. Then September may be a little cool period. October, Sparking Zero. We see November, Dragon Ball Daima. Then there's, if you play Legends Festival. Then after 10th anniversary, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts.
Stuff, if you're playing all these games. So stay tuned. The next half of the next year, the last half of the year is gonna be pretty sick. But that's all there is for Sparking Zero, really. Unless Ningen, did you have anything specific?
Yeah, so obviously, people keep asking me about it as well. Obviously, because it's a Dragon Ball game, so you kind of can't avoid it. But it's one of those things where I think we were talking about it a little bit either before or after the podcast last week, where it's one of those things where I actually really am looking forward to playing it, but for whatever reason, I've just kind of avoided a lot of the trailers and the posts and stuff. Whenever they were posting those character update ones, I think it was one that came out not long ago where they showed off Zamasu and Kefla and stuff like that. I didn't watch that. I just saw people.
They did a fusion
talking about it on Twitter and stuff like that. But obviously the big thing that really drew me in, because I kind of had, was pretty much decided I was probably going to get it regardless anyway. So it's almost like I didn't want to see too much of it, but every little bit and stuff that I see is all looking really good. And obviously the big one was I watched the Games Fest thing recently. And they had the new trailer.
Yeah, Summer Games Fest.
And that was the one where they first showed off the what if stuff, which is going to be super cool.
Yep.
Because I know a lot of the older games, some of the older Budokai games, had that in it and things like that. So stuff like that is going to be super interesting. Stuff like that obviously could also be something that then becomes.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine, dude?
Yeah. So yeah, stuff like that would be really cool. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'll get it. The only thing that annoys me a little bit, and I know Theo mentioned it, right, is it's the people who've designed the game itself clearly have the love for Dragon Ball, and it's the people who then do the marketing side and all that kind of stuff.
We are going to talk about it. Okay.
That's the only thing I wanted to say. The thing that annoys me, that it's kind of becoming a thing with games now, is this whole pay a bunch of extra money so you can play it 3 days early, and it's no, I'm not doing that. So now I have to sit and wait for 3 days while everybody else plays it. Yeah, nah.
Well, let's not even get into the fact that dude, there's not only day one DLC. All of the because the part of the pre-order bonus, the thing with the gammas on it, is that you get early access to wave 1, 2, and 3.
Well, yeah, but that's,
of the DLC
the
characters.
DLC's not going to drop day one. It's more that you're going to be able to play the DLC early.
Yeah, but my point is that the game is being announced and advertised with 20 characters of DLC out the gate. That's never a good thing for a game.
Some of them are for Dragon Ball Daima, which
see, that's fine, but
I think for superheroes, sure. And I don't think that games, this game was if you want to get the full collectors, technically.
Well, I don't think games should have day one DLC at all, because what that means is that they, then that means that they took the content out of the game and then made it DLC because they know that they can make extra money off of it. It would be different if it was okay, we're announcing the DLC now, but the characters are we're going to make it clear this was not something that's a part of the base game. It was after we were done, then we were okay, let's make more. But if your game is not done yet, right? Because we've even still seen that like some of the stuff in Sparking Zero still needs a little polish, right? And I do know that some of the Japanese footage was a newer build of the game than the stuff that some of the US boys got too. But when your game is not complete yet, you should not have DLC even on the table yet, bro. It just looks bad on the company, right? It just looks like you're being money hungry. And it is a huge problem with modern games that like I forget what game was the first game to do it within the last like 10 years or whatever, but whatever that one game was that was like the huge scandal where like they basically like made a game and then they cut the game in half and then charged the like second half of the game as DLC basically. I don't remember what game that was, but ever since that happened, games have been real comfortable with dropping day one DLC.
Well, the one that stands out, which I don't think it was the one you mean because it wasn't a huge amount of content, but it was the one where I first saw like a huge amount of backlash was I think it was Mass Effect 3. I don't think it was 2, I think it was 3. But like the day it came out, there was DLC that added an extra character that you could have in your party who had his own like abilities and a whole separate quest line that was to do with his like backstory. And that was just available to buy as DLC on day one. So like that should have just been in the game. But instead they like pushed it to one side and was like, no, you have to buy that. Even though it was ready on time for the game to come out on the day that the game launches. But if you want that extra bit, you have to buy it. And it's like...
Exactly.
Yeah, and then it's been...
well, the only thing is that I don't think that like the Sparking Zero DLC is going to be available like that.
Yeah, I think
that the Sparking Zero DLC is going to be like 2 months even after.
Yeah,
I'd have to look at the image. I don't remember what the image said.
If it's saying that, like, oh yeah, we're going to have DLC characters, but the first ones don't come out for like 3 months or something, then that's fine. But if it's like, if there's DLC characters available on day one, then that's a bit...
No.
I will say, you know what is funny about that too, though, is the fact that...
oh gosh, go on.
No, I was just going to say, it is kind of funny too that in terms of like that thing with the DLC, they also it also says for that DLC like the early thing, right? Is that you're gonna be like getting the DLC early, which means that you're gonna get earlier than other people though, which is also like I don't know, maybe I'm like out of pocket for saying this, definitely could be for sure. But I almost feel like that's arguably worse than getting the game 3 days early. I don't know, because it's like getting the game 3 days early. It's just like I don't know. I feel like
I feel like getting
dumb.
The 3 days early thing is worse, but like
I think it's just dumb regardless. I think that, regardless of which one may be worse than the other, I think they're both bad. There's no like twisting that.
Yeah,
sure.
it is one of those things.
The only thing I would say is if you're gonna get the DLC, and like for the DLC, if you're gonna get it anyways, you're probably just gonna get like the DLC packs, in which case you would get it 3 days early. But I guess that's like with right now it's with the Ultimate Edition specifically and the Deluxe Edition, right? Where you can get the game 3 days early, and then you can get the DLC 3 days early. So it's like if you get either of those two, then you're just gonna like if you order it now, then you're gonna get it 3 days early regardless. I think it's not that big of a deal unless you're only getting the DLC like I don't know 2 weeks before, and it's like separate. Then it's like in that situation, right? But like,
I think it's just. I think the point is not the semantics of that. I think it's just the point is that it's a bad business practice for the consumer.
For the consumer,
like that's
I don't think that the 3 days thing should be a thing necessarily, but I also don't think like with the way that they're doing it, it's not. At least maybe not to me, because I'm like I'm gonna get it anyways. But maybe if it was a game where I'm like kind of on the fence about, I would feel more like mad about it. So I understand that point of view. It just depends on how you feel about it, because like at least with me, I'm like I'm gonna get it anyway. But I could play it 3 days earlier now.
Yeah.
So that's cool, right? But like, I guess if you're like if it's a game that I didn't really care too much about, I feel like, well, I mean that situation's maybe someone would feel price should you get it, which would be kind of what they want, you know.
Yeah,
Because
I think it's just companies get away with it too easily nowadays because people just accept it as the
if
norm.
you pre-order it, you can play it 3 days early or something. Then that would be fine. But it's like it's the fact that it comes with the more expensive editions. And
because if you get the solo one, if you get the standard edition, you don't get that luxury.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
so maybe it could have been just a pre-order bonus, but
yeah, because it is similar to that day one DLC type thing, where it's like the game comes out on this date, unless you give us more money, and then it comes out earlier for you. It's like just bring it out earlier for everybody. Then, if the game's ready to drop like 3 days earlier, instead of putting it behind, it's just one of those like. It's like the meme, I guess, where like the slippery slope, right? Every extra thing they can put like a paywall, like it used to be.
Right.
You know, first it was DLC, you know, day one DLC. Now it's this, like, and it is becoming a bit of a trend.
It's a low key a gaming epidemic. I don't know if that's too harsh a word to use, but honestly, it's true. And not to mention, like, you know, the whole thing of just having them all. Multiple editions, right? That's a whole nother thing of just like games in general nowadays, where I think different editions of a game are fine, but I think to the point where you have so many editions that it just becomes unnecessary is a little bit too much. Like I feel like for me, it's like make a collector's edition and a standard edition, and then maybe an ultimate edition, and that's all you need, right? Like I don't think that the deluxe edition is even necessary. Obviously, we're not talking about the prices of them specifically. I'm just talking about their existence.
What I would say though is that the perks of the collector's edition, I really like that diorama. I hope that's. Well,
I will say I got to give them credit on the collector's edition for the fact of the collector's edition too. The only additional items is physical stuff. Yeah. So if you get the highest edition, the ultimate edition, then you're getting all of the like actual game's content. That will be in the collector's edition. So I do think that they did a very good job on that. And yeah, I think that the items in there are cool, right? You're getting the figure, the statue of Broly versus MUI, which I'm kind of thinking maybe that'll be like the opening movie or something. That would be really cool.
That'd be awesome.
That would be really sick. I know that you get like
in the game. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I hope that's a what if too. I know that there's like a steelbook in there. I saw it too. I'm sure you guys noticed it too. I can't believe they put bookmarks in there, bro. They have to know the Dragon Ball fans can't read me, bro. They gotta know. There's no way they included that in there.
Hey, man.
Too funny,
I will use these bookmarks 100%.
Why not, bro? Put them in the Dragon Ball manga. Gotta make a tweet like, oh my gosh, we can read, something.
Ningen, did you see the steelbook?
I don't think so.
The steelbook art is so nice.
I'm gonna get it, and then you can put it on this.
Oh my gosh!
We'll probably move on in a second.
Yeah.
The steelbook, because we do
still. We got on to talking about the gaming industry.
Game DLC. I will say,
we'll put it in our chat, and you can.
The art is amazing for the steelbook. That's the like. So if you would open up the steelbook art and like spread it out flat, that's what the art will be on like both sides of it. Which is really cool. I will say though, the only thing that the final thing I'll say about the whole like DLC thing, I will say though, Daima, sure I get it because Daima isn't even out yet. I will say it does kind of suck though that Superhero is relegated to DLC because it seems like from what we know from the characters and from the implication of the DLC. Take this with a grain of salt because obviously the game isn't out yet. But it seems like that all the superhero characters are going to end up being DLC exclusive.
Yeah. I mean, if they have the Gammas and DLC,
right? It's like you would think, right? So I will say,
I think that's a little silly, yeah. But
Daima for sure, it's fine. I think is DLC. I don't really have a problem with that, but I think it's kind of dumb. Yeah.
Did you see how there's also like a pre-order playable character that we don't know about?
Yes. Yet? So that could either be like just fine and not a big deal, or really bad, to be honest. Because if that's going to be a character that is going to be relegated to a pre-order bonus only for a really long time, That's gonna be rough.
I feel like
I hope
mean
not, though.
they did it in the past with Xenoverse.
They did with Goku Black, right? Then they do
Goku
that
Black
with him.
and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Xenoverse 1. Eventually those characters become available.
Right.
We don't know what it's going to be right now. It might be, I think my theory is that it's going to be a game original character. And at that point, people might not really care too much because, you know, in the past games you've gotten game original characters. Kakarot got Banyu. Fighters got 21, you know, and obviously Legends got Shallot. So, like, these games have been having their own original characters. So this might be a Sparking Zero, like, brand new character to Sparking Zero specifically. I mean, for all we know, it could have been the last designed character by Toriyama. Like,
that's
a
true.
brand new character. Because Sparking Zero, I mean, if you guys weren't aware, this game has been in development for like years.
Yeah. Oh,
not
my
like
gosh,
since last year, like since first game. General. Oh, did the stream cut off? No, it's good.
Oh, did it?
Okay, well, as long as we're fine. Regardless, I think Sparking Zero is going to be very exciting, even though, you know, me and A had personal issues with the DLC and how they're handling it.
I mean, that's just gaming in general, bro. Unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, it's not something that I like. I don't like. It's not something that it's a weird balance, right? Because I don't like accept the fact that that's how things are, but like that's just the way things are. It's like, you know,
unfortunate. But it kind of is what it is at this point.
Unfortunately, it is what it is, because it's the same thing that happened with like Day One DLC and stuff like that. Is people complained about it, but then loads of people still bought it, so then games just kept doing it. Right. So
right. Well, but it's like it sucks because it's like I don't even know if I can really blame people because it's like, well, dog, I'm not gonna be missing out on a whole playable character, you know, if I don't pre-order the game.
It's not even that. It's like people were gonna get the game regardless. It's like I feel like people, like, if you're like looking at this game and this is like one of the first games to introduce pre-orderable characters, people are gonna want to play this game that they've been excited for over a year. Or 2 years, right? It hasn't been 2 years, but like, you know, especially if it's a game that's been announced for such a long time and you've been looking forward to this, you're a huge fan of the series, you're still gonna really want the game, so you're gonna pre-order it regardless.
Pre-order stuff isn't as bad as well, because a lot of the time with pre-order bonuses, it's like even if you pre-order the game like an hour before it comes out, like it still counts.
You still
get
it.
It's only when the game is officially released you then can't pre-order it anymore. So if you decide that you are going to get it, as long as you buy it, like, you know, just before it comes out, you will still get all the pre-order bonus stuff, which is good.
Right. Yeah.
Theoretically, there's always people out there who mass purchase stuff and sell it later. So you may have a chance to snag one of those. Worst case scenario.
We love scalpers.
Scalpers do that. But let's I think at this point, you know, is there anything else you guys want to say about Sparking Zero, or should we head into our next segment?
I can't wait for Gohan Beast. That's it.
And I'm assuming we're all getting it on PlayStation, right? Because it apparently doesn't have crossplay. So
that's one thing we talked to the devs about.
I may be getting it on both, to be honest with you, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm not gonna lie. What I did is because the physical version, I was last thing I'll say. The physical version, we don't. That's like with the collector's edition. That's going to be like mailed to you because it's all physical. With the collector's edition, you're not going to get it digital, of course. So because of that, even though
unless you're getting the Steam collector's edition,
the Steam collector's edition. What do you mean?
It's obviously a digital code.
Oh well, yeah, but like it's going to come in a physical box, right? It's all going to still be mailed to you. Like what's going to happen is that you're going to get a code inside the box, and then you're going to have to redeem the code. The thing is,
well, the PS5 collector's edition does come with a disc, but for the content, yes, there will be a code.
So like you'll get everything physical mailed to you, then you'll get the box, but then when you open it, it's not going to be a disc; it's going to be a code that you like use. But anyways,
Eddie also speaking of our whole thing of like the different editions and stuff. Do you realize how crazy good marketing that is? Because you won't get the game 3 days early if you buy the collector's edition. So people will buy the collector's edition and the game again just to play 3 days early.
That's literally what I did. So I got it.
That's what I did too.
Yeah, I got it on the collector's edition because it's gonna be mailed to you. It says that they'll try to get it to you 3 days early on the website. This says we'll try to mail it out so you can get it then. But obviously,
Yeah, that ain't happening. No way.
Postal status, like, let's be real, the postal services and everything, you're probably like me, you're not gonna get it on time, most likely, unless you get really lucky. So if you want to really make sure you get the 3 days ahead, you would probably have to get the digital version regardless. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. I got the digital ultimate version.
Yeah,
on the
I did
PS5.
too.
Then I got the collector's edition for Steam because I'm gonna want to play it mostly on PlayStation anyways. But then I'll have PC later for like, like mods and like other
What?
stuff.
No. What? No way.
So like but no, that's why I got it on both. So it is kind of silly in that situation. I'm not sure if it's because I guess they could have realistically mailed you or like emailed you the code so you could redeem and get it ahead of time. But
Wait, no, but that is
you
what's happening for the collector's
No.
edition. The collector's edition, yeah, that's what they said. They said the collector's edition. At least this is where I read somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I guess take this with a grain of salt.
it's technically a physical version. I never got a
I guess that's true. I swear I saw maybe Slavix is leading me astray because I swear I saw Slavix say that somewhere.
No, he said that's what they should do.
Oh, then you know what?
remember
Yeah,
that
I was
tweet.
probably.
Yeah, he's like, why don't they
misinterpreting
just mail you the code instead of you having to get the package and then you open the box and it's just a
Yeah,
code
that's
for the C
true.
version.
it.
They can
Right?
email you
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're not doing that. You have to wait for it to be mailed to you. But yeah, anyways, that's a funny thing.
Yeah.
But
Darn
yeah,
you,
no.
Slavin!
I can let y'all know I will
love you,
be
Slavix.
streaming the game. We will be doing all the what ifs. We'll be having fun shenanigans. You already know. But I think it's about time to move on to our next segment,
Yes.
the Trash Takes podcast segment, or
The trash takes. That'll be an episode at some point.
yeah,
sure.
the Trash Take segment though. So we do have a take here that Ningen should pull up at any second. Now, I don't know if it's already up there on the screen because I'm not really looking at our stream itself, but in any let me double check.
Is he
here.
broken?
It is up. There it is.
Ningen, are you here?
Yeah.
He might be
Okay.
crazy.
Okay.
So-
I was just making sure Discord wasn't screwing us over.
Here is the trash take here. So this one I picked out. It's just one I saw yesterday. This is from DBC Link 2000. Thank you very much for giving us your seemingly trash take. Now this is probably more of a hot take. It's not saying that it's someone else's that they saw, but physical Rose Goku Black will become as valuable as EGO Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku and then Int Fat Boo once we get the domain
Interesting.
update. So
Interesting.
I think we didn't really get any further context about that. That's just how the take as it is. Dokkan, you seem like you have some things to say.
No, quite literally, I think my response to this is so like simple, honestly, this time. I think it's quite literally, I don't think that you can say this because we don't know what the domain update is actually going to be. I think
agree.
that, yeah, I feel like you can only say this once we know the details of the domain update. Then maybe, sure, this is a fair take, but until then, I'd say this is a trash take. Also, maybe even, I guess you could take into consideration that I'd say that just Riku and Fat Boo are just better. Just like even disregarding the domain thing, but obviously specifically talking about the domain aspect of it, I just think you have to wait until, we have further info. So that's it for me.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, because I guess if we're going to go by the presumed thing of domains will be able to all work at the same time, then it's a thing of, he could very well potentially be on that level because you have Fusion Zamasa's domain, you have this guy's domain, you have, you'll be able to get both Broly's domains technically if they
I'm so
overlap.
hyped, dude. I'm so hyped for that.
So, you could have both Broly's transformed. It could be a much different kind of like power. But for all we know, it could be an update where domains don't overlap but override each other.
Mhm.
So instead, it could be a thing where you use Rose, you transform with him. Then after you use Broly, and then Rose's domain goes down, but Broly's goes up. And that would kind of make sense because it would be a little weird how, like, if you could have both domains at the same time. I don't know how that would work. You
That'd be
probably
insane.
realistically would only be able to activate one at a time. So the actual domains themselves won't technically be able to overlap the effects. I think some things people are thinking are like, oh, you'll have Goku Black's 20% buff, Broly's 20% buff, Fusion's and Masu's buff. But it's like a thing where you probably aren't going to get all of that. And realistically, it might just be one active at a time. And in that situation, the domain buff, even though it would help Rose Goku Black that you could transform him, it wouldn't be nearly as strong as some people are thinking. So that's one I think we could think about too. So
Yeah.
I guess it's the thing where we can't really know. And one extra thing is that, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and I think Fapu especially, I don't think this guy will be as valuable as Fapu. Because the thing about especially Fapu is that he has so much tech with him. Super Saiyan 3 Goku, possibly, right? Because, there's not necessarily as strong as them, but how valuable they are, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah. What do you think, Ningen?
Yeah.
You're the Rose fan here, so let's see.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, what Theo said is absolutely correct, is it depends what the domain update is, really. Because we talked about this before in a previous episode, but yeah, as you were kind of saying, I think that some people are getting their hopes up that it's going to be like every single domain is just active all at the same time, which would be crazy, right? Because like Super Bosses would probably just be hands down the best team in the game if that was the case. So the way I'm realistically expecting it to work is that you can just activate one and it overwrites the other one. But hopefully, like, the characters that transform as part of their active skill will then obviously stay transformed, right? So, like, for example, you could transform Broly and then you can use physical Rose's domain. So then physical Rose's domain is the one that's actually active, but they're both transformed. Like, ideally, will be how it's
Yeah.
going to work. And if that is how it works, of course he's going to be significantly better. I'm not sure in terms of the take itself, though. Like, as valuable as Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Fat Buu, I mean, no other TURs have come out since then, have they? Because obviously Global got Frieza, which was already on JP, and JP got Rose, who's already out on Global. So as far as I know, like, most people probably still consider Goku or Buu as like the best TUR in the game currently, right? And when you think about how crazy like Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Buu can be, whereas, as Minato quite accurately pointed out, like, I am a fan of Rose, I've been a Rose defender, but like, especially without, I guess it's hard for me to evaluate as a global player because I don't have physical Goku Black's EZA, which does help him out quite a lot now. But like, without a Rainbow Orb Changer, like, even with the domain updates and stuff, if you get a bad turn where you don't get any Rainbow Orbs, then Rose's probably not going to look as good as Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right? And it all depends, because with Goku it's tricky, right? Because he gets the extra defense in slot 1 and then gets extra attack in slot 2. I mean, I did a run recently using Goku's team, just messing around, and like, Rainbow Friend Goku in slot 2 is doing like multiple 15 million attack stats and stuff, whereas Rose, you need to get the orbs to get him to do a bunch of attacks so that he can start off by doing like a 2 or 3 million attack stat and then build up to doing 15 to 18 or whatever. But depending on how many rainbow orbs you actually manage to get, he might not end up getting that many attacks. Whereas Goku, especially in slot 2 or 3, is getting like a guaranteed additional super. He's got the damage reduction. Yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of, it's hard to say like straight up it's an L take, because I think somebody in the chat did literally say it's kind of like saying, right, like, when this unit gets an upgrade they will be better, which is very obviously true, but going as far as to say he'll be as valuable as Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Fat Buu, I don't know, that's a tricky one. Like I say, I think it all depends on what the domain update actually is and how it works. But yeah, I don't know. Best case scenario, with his domain, with buffs from other characters, is he going to be as good as Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Fat Buu, like in their ideal? Because if we're giving him his ideal situation, we kind of need to do that for them too in order to compare them. So yeah, I don't know. Even as someone who very much enjoys physical Rose, even on global, right, I feel like I was putting him higher in my top 10 list than maybe some other people, but I wasn't putting him above Goku and Fat Buu. And I don't know how much of that is going to be changed with the domain, right? Because even on global, we didn't have to worry about Broly because we don't have him yet. So yeah, I think, man, it's hard to say. I think it's an L take based on our current understanding of what the domain update could actually be. But if they surprise everybody and surpass all expectations, which, you know, considering they seem to hate villains, I don't think will be the case. But if they make it so that every single domain stacks on top of each other, then this is probably a W take, because it's probably just true. Because Rose would, like, any of the super bosses units would just become absolutely insane on that team when you've got like Broly's, Zamasu and Rose's domains all active at the same time. So yeah, I would say it's hard to say for sure without knowing what the update is, but unless they go full on crazy with that domain update, I don't know if I would see him being as good as Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Fat Buu just by the domain essentially being, you can switch to his one being the one that's active, because that's essentially just making him how he is now. It just allowed you to already transform Broly, which you can't do currently, right? So if the update just allows you to switch domains, he's essentially in the same position he's in now. So, which I would say is not quite on the level of Goku and Fat Buu. So I would say it's an L just because, you know, we don't really know what the domain update will look like, but yeah, it could potentially be a W if they give us the very slim chance that they just make the domains absolutely busted, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how things go, but hopefully domains work in the best way possible. I guess we can't say 100% for sure, but you know, I think it's a thing where Rose, at the end of the day, you could say it's hard to say he'll be as valuable as those characters even with the domain update, because he is still technically restricted to his team. You could say maybe he'll be as like on their level of strength, but he is still restricted to super bosses. While those characters, you know, even I guess Goku is restricted to Majin Buu sagas. Like he doesn't need the entire team for that. And Fat Buu could realistically be thrown on any teams. I mean, I've even seen Fat Buu just being thrown on without a leader skill on like some Ghost Usher kind of teams where you have like 5 Ghost Ushers, and it's like tricky. But if you are able to get it done, it works pretty well.
Yeah, I beat Red Zone Kid Buu with the double tech trunks and then just a whole team full of Ghost Ushers. It was great.
Yeah, like it seems fun,
That's
right?
cool.
It's like it's also because that's a theoretical thing. And I just don't think Rose has the tech or the flexibility to be as like quote unquote valuable. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunate.
Ningen, what's the poll looking like here?
Well, I would say it's probably not a huge surprise that it is majority L take. We got 71 versus 28%, since YouTube likes to not add up to 100. But it's 71% L. As people have said in the chat, though, I've been keeping an eye on what some people have said. It is a very up in the air thing, right? Where we really don't know, because we don't know what the domain update is going to be like. But it's just hard to imagine, unless they do go absolutely crazy with that update, it's hard to imagine him being as valuable as they are. Because actually, Minato made a very good point, because we do like to focus on the wording of the tweet specifically, right? Is that even if he's reaching their level of power with that update, is he as valuable as them when he is kind of locked to being on one specific team? So yeah, I would say probably not.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like a different thing. If the wording was different, right? But we got to take it into as context of the wording, right? And it's like, I think, you know, even some people in chat were thinking of like, oh, he's not going to be as strong as them. But, well, that necessarily may not be true. It's more so of like value in terms of being a valuable character. I think, you know, obviously being a good character still matters. But when you go into valuable, we also need to consider like, you know, how many setups he helps, how many characters he helps, different ranges of teams you can run him on, stuff like that. But that is it for the trash take. Thanks to everyone for coming by in the chat, voting on there, and thank you again, DBC Lingo, for the take for us to go ahead and review today. It was very fun, right? I think it's always, I can't even speak. It's nice to talk about, especially new characters, rather than the same discussion with like these old characters sometimes all the time,
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't do that already, feel free to follow the Twitter. Every week we do put out a tweet asking for your takes, and then he may be chosen depending on which one of us are the hosts and what we may be in the mood to talk about, right? So as long as you leave a good one, we'll definitely look at it. But we can move on next, and that is it for the last segment. But of course, we will be reading through any of the donos and super chats you guys had left for us. I know Ningen does have the list there, so go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, so it's just a couple for tonight. So shout out to these guys who did contribute today. We do have our boy Raudo in the chat, who previous guest on one of the episodes when Minato was away. So shout out to the boy. He re-upped his membership for the channel. 24 months, so 2 years as a channel member. The boy finally has the diamond Timebreaker mask badge unlocked for the 2 years as a channel member. This was right at the beginning of the podcast. Will Global get the Super EZA Goku Black before the anniversary? Will Global stop being so dry? Will the Slot 1 Super Podcast not have technical difficulties? We find out tonight. And yeah, we certainly had some interesting ones this evening. Not too crazy this time. We didn't lose anyone from the call completely, so at least there was that.
The internet pooped out a couple times, but yeah, at least we vibe.
We stayed online at least, so there is that.
We did.
So shout out to Raudo-kun. Shout out to JC Gamer for the $5 super chat. He says, is anyone else hoping the new LR Bardock will become a Super Saiyan 2 Bardock? I also think they are going to do a celebration for the permanent merge. So yeah, obviously there is one Super Saiyan 2 Bardock in the game, that STR one. I mean, I'd be perfectly happy to see more Bardocks of any variety other than base, right? It's one of the reasons why I like Heroes in general is people getting forms that they didn't get in the various different shows and specials and stuff like that. What are your guys' thoughts? I know we talked about him, of course, but if you could pick something, if it wasn't an exchange, what kind of thing would you like Bardock to eventually become in terms of forms and things like that?
Super Saiyan 2 would be good. I think Super Saiyan 2 is a pretty good thing. That, Super Saiyan 2 in general, I think, especially in the recent years, doesn't really get too much love.
Yeah.
I feel like we could also see, I don't know, like even like what if it becomes Mass Saiyan? You could very well become a Mass Saiyan.
That would be insane.
He ends up being like a lower Mass Saiyan, but it'd be
yeah.
kind of weird because he's on like some of these teams that I think Mass Saiyan isn't on.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe he could transform into Mass Saiyan.
That would be sick.
That'd be cool.
I'd take Bardock, and he eventually transforms to Mass Saiyan and puts on the mask. That'd be cool.
No one cared who I was until I put on the mask.
Dude, I've talked about it for years now, but one of my most wanted units in the game is Bardock, who puts on the like half broken mask and turns into a Super Saiyan 3.
And goes Super Saiyan 3. Yeah, I want that.
That's
too.
possible too.
So bad. That'd be great. Obviously, because it's a transformation and not like an exchange, it doesn't really make sense with this guy because obviously he wouldn't be on like Team Bardock and stuff, right? So it's a weird one.
Well,
but...
not necessarily because this is the Bardock from like he's ripped from that point in time and put into where the story mode is. So
yeah,
theoretically,
true.
he could be on those teams.
That is true. Yeah, I guess they can just kind of go with the like, even if they're taking inspiration from like the Xenoverse Bardock that becomes Saiyan and has like Super Saiyan 2 and 3, they're still making him like the Dokkan original version, like Broly and Trunks, because it's just he's the version from the Dokkan story. So I guess they can kind of do whatever they want in that respect, but that'd be certainly very cool. But yeah, him awakening into like a Super, or transforming, exchanging whatever into like a Super Saiyan 2, 3 or 4 would be awesome. So yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. Imagine if he ends up being like, I don't think Heroes has even done this, but imagine he ends up becoming like LR God Bardock or something. That'd be crazy.
That'd be
Super Saiyan
insane.
the
God
red
Bardock
hair
would
and
be
everything,
crazy.
Super Saiyan God Bardock, that'd be crazy.
That would.
But yeah, I
That'd be
guess we'll have to
crazy.
wait and see. Like Minato said earlier when we were talking about Bardock in that segment, new quest stages will be coming out fairly soon on JP. Might have to wait a little bit longer because I think, like we said, it was like 2 months before the SSR Trunks awakened into the TUR Trunks and Broly. But I guess we will have to wait and see. And in terms of a permanent, do you think we'll get a sync celebration? I feel like it's probably just going to be like worldwide because worldwide is
I feel like
like
it'll be just
At this
synced, right?
point, bro, I just want the sync to be over.
think it's
I don't
just-
want them to do nothing special,
I
bro.
think
They
it's
don't
just gonna
deserve
be
it.
worldwide.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. At this point, bro, I think it's just worldwide is probably the best decision.
Yeah, because worldwide is
Um,
a big synced celebration, right? And so we can have the worldwide
Yeah.
celebration. This is how I've always pictured it, right? When they announced like when they said summer 2024, it's like, right, we'll have worldwide, which is synced anyway, and then worldwide will come to an end and they'll be like, right, the games are synced now, right? Because we've just gone through a big
Yeah.
synced celebration. So that's probably what will happen, but I guess we'll see. Maybe they'll just do like a special, like we get like a week of some extra login bonuses or something to celebrate the merge or something like that. But I can't imagine there'll be like a big separate celebration or anything, and it'll just be focused on
Yeah.
worldwide. But either way, shout out to JC Gamer for that one. We have one here from Drace with a $5 super chat as well. I always find it funny. Goku says he can't forgive people who hurt his friends, but almost his entire group is full of people who have. That is very true. The large amount of the Z fighters and
Ironic.
stuff were villains at some point.
Piccolo,
in the,
Tien, technically Yamcha.
yeah, exactly. So
Bulma also shot Goku in their first interaction. I don't know if you count that.
true.
It's like the only. Wait a minute. The only one who is actually Goku's friend, I swear. I mean, yes, Bulma, but like, is Krillin, right?
Yeah, 'cause-
Vegeta as well.
And even like when they
Was
first
obviously
meet, they're
villain.
like, they're not like best friends.
They're
straight away, are they?
rivals,
they're
yeah.
like rivals. So his
Yeah.
entire friend group is made up of people that used to be his enemies, basically.
That's hilarious.
Good
That's
stuff.
very
That's so funny.
Shout out
I mean,
to
I
Jace.
guess that makes sense. Goku surrounds himself by people who make him stronger. Classic Goku, you know.
Yeah, true,
I don't
true.
know.
Good stuff. And then shout out to Drace for that one. And then right at the end here as well, we have 5 gifted memberships for the channel from Philip Rodriguez. So I
thank you.
appreciate you, my dude. Shout outs to Edge Dancer, It's Carter, Jag F, Cade Broom, and Jeffo for receiving the memberships. But yeah, those are the contributions from the podcast tonight. So we appreciate you guys for contributing. And yeah, that is it for this week for the shout-outs. So
Awesome.
Well, there we go. Thank you to everyone who's stopping by to watch this week's Slot One Super Podcast. We finished for all the topics today. Next week, we will have things such as the Part 2 lore on GP, likely have the Part 2 lore on Global as well. Maybe Super Easy and Global. Could be a lot of things, but we'll see you guys when that happens.
Yeah.
Could be a very exciting week for Dokkan, hopefully. Maybe.
Yeah.
We need it, bro. The game that dead.
All right.
At least like Style Max, I think would be exciting, but who knows?
Absolutely.
Anyways, that's all from me, the Mass Ningen, and Dokkan Assets, and we will catch you all next week.
See ya.
Have a good one.